Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Altergeist Yugioh deck profile for September 2024. I've been getting a few subscriber requests to update the Altergeist deck since my last update to it, which I believe was around Duelist Nexus when it got more support for the deck, but still, it's a very control trap-based kind of deck that uses traps in tandem with the Altergeist special summon playstyle to then go into the many different Altergeist Link monsters that we have for the deck as well. I would say if you like playing trap cards, this is definitely the deck for you to consider just with its overall search and setup. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the 3-ofs for our Altergeist monsters, running 3 copies of Altergeist Marionetter. This is your searcher. Just when it's normal summon, you can set one Altergeist trap directly from your deck to your spell and trap card zone. You can target an Altergeist card you control and one Altergeist monster in your graveyard. Send that card on the field of the graveyard and special summon the other monster from the graveyard. Most of the time, though, your use for Marionetter is going to be to search out any of our Altergeist traps that we run on the deck. We run 1-ofs because of Marionetter, just because this card can easily search and set up the particular one we need for a situation, and then recycle them with other cards we run in the deck. Other 3-ofs include 3 copies of Altergeist Meluseek. It can attack directly, and when it inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target one card your opponent controls, send it to the graveyard. So having a resource just to be able to send a card that your opponent has to the graveyard, but also just one that can inflict for direct damage, can come in handy for some specific situations. And if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add one Altergeist monster from your deck to your hand, except for Meluseek. So even if you were just to send this card off of a Link summon, you can then get a search with this card, making it very viable for the level 1 Link summons that we can go into for the Link 1 monsters. And then for the last of the 3-ofs, 3 copies of Altergeist Multifaker. If you activate a trap card except during the damage step, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card's special summon, you can special summon one Altergeist monster from your deck in defense except for Multifaker. Being able to grab a lot of our 1-of cards for our Altergeists off of this card makes it very, very important in the deck, but also for the fact that if we just activate a trap card, we can special summon Multifaker, meaning we have options on our opponent's turn when we activate cards like Infinite Impermanence from our hand to then just be able to special summon this monster on the field and then gain another special summon. And then for some of the lower numbers for our Altergeist monsters, 2 copies of Altergeist Pukari. If an Altergeist monster you control will be used as link material for an Altergeist monster, this card in your hand can also be used as material. You can use this effect of Pukari once per turn. And if an Altergeist link monster is link summoned to your field while this card's in your graveyard, except during the damage step, you can add this card to your hand. You can only use this effect of Altergeist Pukari once per duel, but the add back power helps to then be able just to use Pukari again for another link play. Even if it is a once per turn add back, we have the 2 copies in here also. Another card to potentially be grabbed off of Multifaker just for the add back power as well, when summoned and used for a link to play with these 2 cards. And then for some of the 1-ofs for our Altergeist monsters, 1 copy of Altergeist Silkatease. Quick effect, being able to return one other Altergeist card you control to the hand to target one Altergeist card. Basically, with this card, return one other Altergeist card you control to the hand, then target one card your opponent controls, return to the hand. If it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target an Altergeist trap in your graveyard and add back to your hand. With Silkatease being the recycle power mentioned before, Kunkari for its monster effect negation and attack negation when your opponent's monster declares an attack. If you control an Altergeist, being able to special summon this card. The 1 Paratrader for the attack directly option again, just like Meluseek. And then with this card, when it inflicts battle damage, draw 1 card. And if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you could send an Altergeist card from your hand or deck or face from the field to the graveyard. So you can also send and set up Pukari with your Paratrader thanks to that play. And then the 1 Malwisp for special summoning it when it's normal or special summoning, grabbing another Altergeist resource from the graveyard back into the field. And when it's added to your hand except by drawing it, you can special summon this card. So if you add it off of cards like Pot of Prosperity, you can even add and then go for the special summon play using this card also. For the rest of the main deck monsters, we run a small hand trap lineup of 2 copies of Moonlit Chill, 2 Nibiru, and 3 Ash Blossom, along with them being viable hand traps in the deck. They're also in here for the small spell lineup that we run that helps with just stopping any plays our opponent may try to use against us as well. With that spell being 2 copies of Crossout Designator. Along with the monsters, we also have some trap targets in this deck that make this card very, very useful just to activate to stop any cards our opponent may try to use on our plays that we try to do. And then the last of the spells being 1 for 1 and the 1 Pot of Prosperity. Plenty of banish options, plus this card's now at 1, thanks to the most recent ban list, and 1 for 1 being able to grab either Meluseek or our Paratrader for that specific play also. And then for the traps, we're running 3 copies of Personal Spoofing. Once per turn, you can shuffle 1 Altergeist card from your hand or face up on the field into the main deck to add 1 Altergeist monster from your deck to your hand. So once again, with the 1-ofs we're running, this card helps just to grab any particular 1-ofs we may need or any specific Altergeist monster using this trap. Sadly, it doesn't have Altergeist in the name, so we can't search it off of Altergeist monsters. That's why we also like to run the 3 copies of it also. And for the 1-ofs of the Altergeist cards that can be searched, 1 Manifestation, being able to just special summon an Altergeist from the graveyard back onto the field and equip it with this card, making it a potential bounce card for an Altergeist monster, card on the field to use with our other cards. 1 Altergeist Revitalization, being able to special summon a Link monster resource from the graveyard, and then the 1 Protocol for the activation of Altergeist cards, being able to not be negated. And when an opponent's monster activates a card effect, you can send 1 other face-up Altergeist card you control to the graveyard to negate the activation and destroy it. All good setup cards once you have Protocol, set up on the field. You don't need to activate it again for that setup. And then for other traps, we run the deck also 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. I mentioned it before with the multi-faker play, that this card can just be activated on your opponent's turn, and then after that resolution, since you activated a trap, be able to special summon the multi-faker onto the field against your opponent for added disruption with the monster you would special summon additionally with that card. And then other traps include the 3 copies of Evenly Matched. I really do like running this card in the main deck. It's a good going second option card because most of the time with the Altergeist deck, you do want to go first to have all your traps set up. If you end up having to go second, you can at least disrupt a good amount of your opponent's board with your Evenly Matched. And then also for the rest of the traps and the rest of the main deck, 1 copy of Rivalry of Warlords and 1 copy of Anti-Spell Fragrance. As I said, we don't run a lot of spells in the deck, so this card really doesn't hurt us as much. And Rivalry, just being able to, each player can only control 1 type of monster. Locking us into Spellcasters really isn't that big of a play, because then we'll just stick to our Link monsters and all of our main deck Altergeist monsters, while our opponent may be definitely a lot more limited, depending on what they can summon. And then for the extra deck, we're running 3 copies of Altergeist Hextia. Needing 2 Altergeist monsters, it gains attack equal to the original attack of each Altergeist monster that it card points to. And when a spell trap effect is activated, you contribute 1 Altergeist monster this card points to negate the activation if you do destroy that card. And if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 Altergeist card from your deck to your hand. Search power, it is a definite 3 of just for how consistent this card is with what the deck is meant to do. Easy link summon play, giving you fresh Altergeist monsters to be able to summon back from the graveyard using this card, and then the additional power boost depending on the Altergeist monster it's pointing to. I also run the 1 copy of Altergeist Adminia, the 1 copy of Altergeist Prime Banshee, and also the 1 copy of Altergeist Memory Gant for the higher Link monsters to be able to go into. You don't use them as often, but still good options, especially with the direct set trap option of Adminia, the battle phase tribute option for attack gain with your Memory Gant, and just a Link 3 option with Prime Banshee as well for additional monster resources to use in the deck as well. And then for some of the generic monsters, the 1 copy of Almirage and the 1 Anima for the level 1 normal summons that we go for in the deck. The 1 copy of Lena the Light Charmer, the 1 copy of Dark the Dark Charmer, the 1 IP Masquerena, the 1 Moon of the Closed Heaven for the Link 2 monsters, along with the 1 Nightmare Unicorn, the 1 Access Code Talker, and the 1 Underworld Goddess of the Closed War. As I said, for more resource grab from our opponents and then just destruction of cards on the field using the other 2 cards, or the shuffle back power in the sense of Nightmare Unicorn. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, Infinite Impermanence and its setup with Multi-Faker will still always be one of my favorite plays, because once again, on your opponent's turn, when they activate a monster effect, you can then activate your Impermanence, and then target that monster. You activated a trap card, so you can then summon out your Multi-Faker. This is all before you even take your first turn. Your Multi-Faker will then resolve, being able for you to summon out to the field your Silkatees. So on top of the Impermanence negation you had your opponent, you now have your Altergeist Silkatees. Quick effect to return 1 other Altergeist card you control to the hand. To target a card your opponent controls and return to the hand also. So that disruption then can bounce back the Multi-Faker and disrupt 1 other card your opponent may have tried to play on the field using that card. You have this disruption, you have the setup with your Marionetter on the field, and then from there you can set your Altergeist trap of choice. You can set up the protocol to then have extra protection on the following turn whenever you try to resolve, let's say, the exact Multi-Faker play. that was mentioned before as well. If you don't go for the multi-faker Socrates play, if the disruption is enough with the impermanence and you go for the multi-faker searching out the Pukari play, then on the following turn you can go for the added option of the Link 2 into your Hextia, activating the effect then for your Pukari to then be able to add this card back to your hand. And then you have your Link 3 option, since you can activate the effect of Pukari in your hand, to then go for one additional Link summon, since you have an Altergeist monster on the field for you to use also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. As I said, a lot of people requested an update to the Altergeist deck, so I figured why not show what were, the changes made and an up-to-date version with the latest ban list. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.